Coming up, I'm talking with Melvin Carter Jr., a man who spent much of his life protecting the citizens of St. Paul. It's next on the St. Paul Forum. Welcome to the St. Paul Forum. I'm Lisa Tabor, guest host with John Forty, while Mike Wassenaar is on sabbatical. I'm here with Melvin Carter Jr., a man who has dedicated much of his life to protecting the residents of St. Paul through both traditional and untraditional means. Thank you for being here, Melvin.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
It's great to see you. I mentioned that you have protected St. Paul in very traditional means as actually a police officer. A SWAT team member, correct?
That was a part of my career, yes.
Yes. Please tell us more about your service.
Well, I started out with about 14 years on just regular patrol, and part of that time I spent on the SWAT team. And my first part as a SWAT team member, I was a entry team. You know what an entry team is?
No.
You know, you go in where they got the bad guy and it's surrounded. I mean, the police have the place surrounded, and situation is too intense for regular officers, and then they have to go in through the doors and get the bad guy who might be holding hostage.
Wow.
Situation, something like that.
Okay. And then you went up through the ranks?
Well, yeah, and then about halfway through my 28-year career, I made sergeant about 1990, and I was a detective for much of that time. During that time, I spent some time, about 3.25 years, as an internal affairs investigator. And then I finished out my career in the juvenile division.
Oh, in the juvenile division. I didn't know that. So what kinds of things did you see as an officer?
Well, it was really interesting. You know, I was amazed by the things that you get to see, and the way you get to see people being themselves, and you go into people's private lives and they tell you things that are just incredible. And one thing I loved about police work is that people would always make me say, "What?" You know, and sometimes that what was good, and sometimes that what was terrible. You know, but I loved the fact that sometimes I felt as though I was a professional athlete in some ways, and a professional writer in some ways, and a therapist in some ways, and you never knew what to expect. And every day was a surprise, and some days were heartbreaking surprises as well.
Oh, how horrible. But while you were there in juvenile, I think, right, you started your nonprofit,
That's
Save
right.
Our Sons, correct?
That's right, that's correct.
Why did you start that?
Well, it started because I was unique, and I was the only African-American person in the juvenile division, and plus a lot of people in St. Paul knew where I lived, and I was kind of high profile, and so at that time in '85, crime began to soar in such a way where the drugs started happening, and also the drive-by shootings started happening, and I'd get swamped personally with calls because, remember the Ghostbusters, who you gonna call?
Yeah.
And the traditional things weren't happening. You know, for example, we were telling mothers mothers were calling and wanting some help for their child who was in trouble, and we tell them to, well, catch your son with some drugs, and we'll come and arrest him for you, and then we'll get him in the detention, and then that'll get him the help that he needs. And so mothers weren't trying to hear that, and so here I am with my non-traditional self, and plus mothers would know that their sons were going to be involved in the drive-by shooting that night, and call me up and hit me up at the pass. Well, it just so happened that I probably knew, or might even been related to by blood or by shirt tail related to both sides of the drive-by, of the shooting sides, and I was able to intervene in a lot of things. And so I, along with a number of men in Pilgrim Baptist Church and Mount Olivet Baptist Church, got together and we had a response, and we did a lot of things, and there was no set way to do things. There's no manual as to how to go in, but we created our own manual. We were able to make a lot of differences, in fact, impact a lot of lives along the way.
And how old is Save Our Sons?
Well, you know, that's always a good argument. If you ask Maurice Nins or Willie Nesbitt, we love to argue about when we first started. You know, we became we've got our official application and starting date is 1994, but we started arguably in 1990 because that's when we really started the work, and we snowballed and snowballed, and we got absorbed, and some of us got burnt out, and still we rise to this day.
So how has that work changed over time? 15 years now, more or less.
Well, arguably, you know, I think it's more, you know, it's more closer to 20 years.
28 years.
Mm-hmm. And it's changed by virtue of people's change, or faces have changed, people have come and gone. We now have young people that are contributors who grew up, who we were saving, you know, in the name of Save Our Sons. Like, for example, David Martin, he's a person I love to talk about. Do you know David?
No, I don't.
Anyway, he's a spectacular case because his mother called us up, and the first day he met us, we were doing these things we called night raids, and we'd come in somebody's house, we'd kind of gangster to gangsters, you know, and at that time, you know, I had little badges, so I could come in with a little heavier authority than a lot of people could, and we do this, look kid, here's the deal, sit down, and have some, look son, this is the way it is kind of stuff, you know. And David Martin, you know, he insisted on going on his own way. The short of the story is David wound up spending like almost 5 years in the federal penitentiary after we really tried to save him, keep him out. Well, he did get out, and he called me the night that he was getting out. I could hear the chains rattling, the doors shutting, and echoing across the intercom, and you know, they were processing him out, and he needed a job. So would you know that and along with a guy named Russell Ballinger, you know, we kept in between us, and the short of that story is that almost a year ago, next month, David was sworn in as a full practicing attorney. He's got 2 law degrees, and now he's able to practice law without restriction. And now I think he's working for IRS. Plus, he's on our board of directors. Sure. And so he shows up. So now he's one of the persons that we spend a lot of energy in, and now he's my boss.
We're talking with Melvin Carter Jr., who is a wonderful person, as well as a person who has been committed over much of his life to protecting the public safety in St. Paul. He is just doing wonderful things with kids, and in fact has had a lot of attention to your program, and has really obviously done some good work for the kids. Your program completely, absolutely benefits the young people. You mentioned some of your clients, former clients. Would that be the boys that you used to help?
We can call them that. We don't.
I know.
That's not our language. But for the sake of conversation, we can call them that.
Well, thank you.
Participants, maybe.
Participants, perfect. The program participants. Some of them are now helping you run your program.
Yes.
Are you seeing the same issues with the young men, or even do you work with women?
No, we don't work with women.
Okay.
I have daughters, and my daughters have taught me some lessons that I think raising women, I'll help. You know, I'll be an assistant, but I won't take the run. I won't work point.
Won't touch that.
No, I won't do that. But I have wonderful daughters, and sometimes when it does come to issues that include women, you know, sometimes my wife and my daughters have helped, you know, and even taken over throughout the past, you know, and so. What was your question?
If the issues that the young men faced 15 years or 20 years ago are the same issues they're facing today.